Hi, everyone. We're back. And we just want to, again, thank you all for coming to the conference today. We hope you've enjoyed and learned a great deal from each and every speaker that's shared their heart with you today. But we had some closing remarks. And so you had written the afterword to our book, Out into the Desert, Thriving Outside of Organized Religion. And so you wanted to kind of have a little dialogue about that. So I'm going to let you take it away.
This won't take long, but we wrote the book in 2020, right before the pandemic, and then picked it back up in this year, the beginning of the year, and realized, first of all, that we still liked what we wrote. It was still appropriate to us, but also that we needed an afterword. And we just wanted to talk about those things for a little bit, and then I'm going to read something from the book, and we'll let you go. Don't forget about the panel that's meeting later.
Yeah.
So for me, the bottom line was, after 2 years and all the things that happened in those 2 years, we were more convinced, not less convinced, that we should leave organized religion, that it was the right move, and we were less hopeful of what is there. In the pandemic, we had the chance, and one of the speakers today may have said this already, but during the pandemic, we had the chance to show, as Christians, at least Christians did, what, addressing the least of these, caring for the least of these. We had a huge prime opportunity for Christians to step up and, for once, do what they say they believe. Instead, they got really hung up on going back to church, that they're not getting their hair done, and that no one can. I called a couple of churches in our area, messaged them and things like that, and said, "What are you guys doing? Going back to church? You're infecting each other, and what are you doing?"
Because there were no mask mandates necessarily at these churches that you were calling.
And they were starting to meet back together, and the infection rates were going up, and people were dying, literally dying, and they kind of had the attitude of, no one can tell us what to do. This is a spiritual issue or something. And I thought Christians missed the chance of a lifetime. And they totally blew it. They totally did the opposite of what they should have done. The second thing, and I'm not giving Laura a chance to talk, but she can break in anytime.
I just did.
Okay. The second thing was the insurrection that happened in 2021. After when the election was supposed to be certified, Donald Trump led an insurrection against the United States government. One of the saddest days in history, but it just served as an escalation to the us versus them mantra. And escalated that.
I think it really painted a picture of kind of, I've been thinking a lot about this lately, just like the cult-like nature of, Trumpism. And not only that, but, so much of those that were there that day professed to be, God-fearing Christians. And, so it was a very confusing day for me, for sure, because, while we were outside of the church at that point, I think at that point we still had, hope that, maybe something could change, But what I saw that day was just a lot of pure ugliness and just such disregard for others. It was all about what I want. And so it kind of goes back to what you were saying about the pandemic, the us versus them. first there was a pandemic, and then the insurrection just almost solidified that. I mean, if you didn't think there was an us versus them or a me culture during the pandemic, I don't know how you could look at the insurrection and not think that it was all about, what I want.
We do crazy things.
And I'm going to get it by force. Sorry. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, we're going to, we do crazy things when we say things like, we got to save the world, or the world's, our country's about to end. And we do that, and we say things like we're a Christian nation, which probably never was true. But if we are, look what the people that said they're Christians trying to save the world, look at the terrible things they did that day.
And a lot of people since our deconstruction, especially over the last year, and this actually just happened to you at a farmer's market, but, have asked us, do you still identify as a Christian? And I really struggle with that answer because of the pandemic and because of the insurrection and the behavior that I saw, in the name of Jesus, by people who profess to be Christians. And so I really struggle. I just, we were talking on a podcast earlier this week just about how the word Christian has just been tarnished. It's just been made really, really ugly.
Yeah. At that farmer's market, we were selling books. I'm selling my books, and sometimes people turn them over and they'll see a mention, like in my hotel book, Joe Forster was a former deacon. This may be a little negative about Christians or a little questioning of Christians.
Right.
And so they put it down or they avoid it. But at this farmer's market, it was very obvious the people we knew that were evangelicals and Christians really just hovering around in circles, not interacting. There was a theater that was performing, and I suppose they didn't agree with the performance or whatever, and that there were some queer people in the cast. And so they tried to talk over it at one point. They hid in circles, and none of them, even though they might disagree with my book, never came to talk to me or visit with me or anything like that. So those kind of things really discourage me from thinking that this is going to turn around. And then my former denomination, the Southern Baptists, have doubled down on racism. They had during that time, a massive sex abuse scandal was uncovered, and the executive board members covered it up. And evident two prominent people in the denomination left, but the executive board tried to cover it up, victim shamed, and all the things that we do. The Methodists have split over gay issues, and we're just doubling down on racism and all of these different things that have been problems for so long.
The thing that's so sad to me is it's all in the name of Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like, whichever side you're on, you are right, because of Jesus. He makes how you believe right. And one side I can see, those that are more affirming, I would probably tend to agree more with them. But the part that, and I'm really trying not to use the us versus them or them versus them, but the people that, that led the insurrection, or that are, doubling down and covering up things that are so, how is that in the name of Jesus? How do you justify doing that and then still proclaim the name of Christ? It's so confusing to me, and it really is not something that I want to be a part of.
Right. So I would say to me it's discouraging.
Yeah.
And we just, we're going to read something from the end of the book. This is in the Afterword, so I got the task of reading it since I wrote it. But Laura's the better reader of us too. So Albert Einstein said, "The important thing is never to stop questioning. We believe differently than we did 10 years ago. When we honestly let ourselves be curious, we found deeper and better answers. Sometimes the answers were amazingly simple, but often they were nuanced and mysterious and complicated. We are so glad we asked these questions. We could have never navigated the stroke recovery with my old understanding. The key to discovering beauty and truth is to remain curious, not to defend what we already know. We can't solve the problems and challenges of the 21st century with old ideas. We can't cling to beliefs and ideas just because the group we are familiar with believes that way. As the world evolves, our understanding of it has to move with it, or we will find ourselves somewhat irrelevant to the world around us. There are no simple catchphrases anymore. Many of the things are complicated, and when we try to oversimplify them, we end up missing the target completely. Solving big problems is scary because we have to leave the comfort zone of our answers and compromise and cooperate with others to find the best solutions. It's really always been that way. The problems are simply different these days. We are not asking you to give up anything, but question and consider everything. Then evolve, and when you evolve, if your religion survives, then so be it. If it doesn't survive, then you probably never needed it anyway. We wish you well on your journey. Be where you are, be who you are, and we love you guys.